Hey everyone, it's Mike with It's Pittsfield Tonight. I'm going to jump right into it. And for one, I want to apologize to everyone that sent me messages this past week and some of the interviews I had scheduled. Due to some personal issues, I had to take the week off. So again, my apologies. I know a few of them are candidates for this year's municipal election. So I am back, and I will be getting back in touch with all of you to reschedule everything starting probably today or tomorrow. So that being said, this year is municipal elections for Pittsfield. So we have our Pittsfield City Council election and our Pittsfield School Committee election. And I believe even the city clerk, Michelle Benjamin, is on the ballot this year. But many of our candidates are running uncontested. So you have our Ward 1, Helen Moon, the incumbent, decided not to run for re-election. So you have two new challengers there, Kenny Warren and Andrea Wilson. Ward 2, Kevin Morandi, decided not to run for re-election. So you have two new challengers there, Matthew Cudlett and Charles Cronick. Ward 3, Nick Kakamo, I believe he moved or took a job with another town or community or something like that. So he's not running for re-election. And you have Kevin Sherman, who is running uncontested right now. And many of you might know Kevin. He's a former Pittsfield City Councilor and the former City Council President. I like Kevin a lot. Really smart guy. I'm really excited to see him coming back to the council. Ward 4, Chris Connell, the incumbent, is not running for re-election. So you have two new challengers there, James Conant and Andrew Wren. Ward 5, Patrick Cavey, the incumbent, is running uncontested. And Patrick, I got to say that I'm Ward 5, but Patrick is probably, out of all the constituents and all the wards I've spoken to, the most liked city councilor right now. Even through the pandemic, through the height of all that, when everybody was shut down, he was the most accessible, and he continued to work his tail off on issues for people. And I mean, I haven't heard one bad thing about him from any of his constituents. So very happy to see Patrick coming back. Ward 6, Dina Guil-Lampiazzi is running for re-election. She does have a challenger, Ed Carmel. Ed has run for Ward 6, I think, a couple times. But if you don't know, if you're not familiar with Dina, because it was her first term as a counselor, haven't heard much of her at all. Again, because of the pandemic, they were just Zoom meetings, and I don't know, I haven't heard much from her at all, but I'm familiar with her, and I know many of you are. She works for the Berkshire County District Attorney. She's on the licensing board, and again, Ward 6 counselor. And then Ward 7, Anthony Mafuccio, the incumbent, is running for re-election, and he is uncontested. So he will be coming back. And Tony, he has a lot of people in Ward 7 that like him. He's a well-liked counselor, and they say Tony's very responsive. And then, of course, your school committee. And I'm going to whole separate video on the school committee. There are some shakeup, because the school committee was very controversial with that pick for superintendent. I mean, we had an opportunity to pick our first female woman of color as our superintendent, and all the candidates were highly qualified. There wasn't one who wasn't, including Joe Curtis, who we picked. But the rumor from the beginning was, like everything, we groom the next. It's the kind of, we'll call it the good old boy system. So, Dennis Powell, who was on the school committee, abruptly quit during that. And I supported him on that because he believed the whole thing was a sham, and they knew who they were going to pick ahead of time, and he felt like it was a waste of his time, a waste of the community's time, and we made no change. Nothing against Joe Curtis, but again, a lot of people said Joe deserved that position. I don't get the word deserve when it comes to public service, but anyway, so the school committee was very controversial. And then, of course, you have what happened to the cafeteria workers. You have many of our teachers that are underpaid. They're just trying to get up to, a normal standard that is equal to the rest of the state or the county even. But that's been an issue. And then we have this, our school system has become administrative top heavy, and then we're losing teachers and students, and it's Not good. So these are important ones to pay attention to. You do have a few new names. I guess the biggest thing, and I'll do a separate video for just the school committee, is the chairwoman, Catherine Yan, is not running for re-election. And the only reason that surprised me, I felt like Ms. Yan's been there my whole life. I don't ever remember her. That's what it seems like anyways. Dan Elias, he's been there, I don't know, it seems like forever. There's quite a few names on there that have been there a long time. But the school committee is one definitely to pay a lot of attention to. And then, of course, outside of, in the city council elections, outside of your wards, then you have your at-large counselors. And we have 4 at-large city council seats. I never thought we needed 4 at-large seats, because what does an at-large counselor even do? They just tell you to call your ward counselor, basically. It doesn't seem like they really do much, but not that I'm knocking anybody. But you have 4, so you have Peter Marchetti, the city council president, running for his 8th term. So he's looking to do 16 years on the council. You have Pete White. He's got to be near that 10-year mark, too, because Pete was on the council, then left, and then came back. And he is the city council vice president. Earl Persip, and then Yuki Cohen. And then they have 2 challengers. Karen Kalinowski, who is a former Pittsfield police officer, and many of you probably would remember her. She ran for mayor in the last mayoral election. And then Craig Benoit, who a lot of you will be familiar with Craig. He's the owner of the hot dog ranch. And I did a few videos with Craig when we were trying to get the restaurants back open, and successfully did, when Pittsfield restaurants were the only restaurants in the state that were shut down for that period. Didn't make any sense. I mean, all the towns and communities around us, and that was a big deal. And there was a lot going on. It's been crazy. And because of the pandemic and everything else, all the fighting we saw on the council, counselors trying to have other counselors removed, and it was horrible. So now that we're down to just 1 click now it is the good old, the GOBs, we'll call them. I hate to say that, but you have 1 click now. There is no 2 sides anymore. So hopefully that will be coming to an end. And when I launch my bid for mayor in the next election, and I know quite a few other people that are going to run for mayor, which is great. I'm excited about that. My platform is one big issue: city manager. I want to do what Worcester did, and it's going to take a mayor to get the charter review going and to get it on the ballot for all the constituents and all the voters to vote whether they want a city manager or not. Now, you'll hear from the politicians that they probably don't want that. That's how it was in Worcester. It took them 2 times because the politicians didn't want that. Because as soon as you got a city manager in there, that's a hired position, not elected. It's based off qualifications, and they're there to clean things up. So, like in Worcester, they didn't want that. Oh, the politicians did not want that. But Worcester's doing better than it's ever been. I mean, it's crazy how great it's doing. And I see a bright future for Pittsfield if we make that change. So we can get our school teachers paid the salaries they deserve. So we can take a look at all this administrative, top-heavy administrative positions and start trimming some of the unnecessary fat and putting those resources where they belong, with the teachers. Or how about the cafeteria workers making, after they saved their jobs, which a lot of them were close to losing their jobs unfairly. And that's when I learned that the public school systems have to only abide by federal law. So they're allowed to use federal minimum wage as a guideline to pay their staff. So we have cafeteria workers that are making about $2 an hour below the state minimum wage. And imagine how they felt. A lot of them are mothers with children in school, and that's how they're able to do these jobs. Great people. I got to know a lot of them. And I was disgusted to see how little they were paid at a time when, in the middle of the pandemic, where the mayor got another raise and the superintendent, our new superintendent's making $168,000 or $169,000 a year. And the Eagle did this little puff piece on it saying that he accepted the lower end or something like that. No, he didn't. It was right in line with the new contract that Jake McCandless had just signed prior to that, like a year prior to that. So I thought it was insulting, and I'm sure it was very insulting to a lot of the teachers and people that work in the schools. So um, it's there's been a lot going on. There's a lot to discuss, and I think that's why we'll get into the city manager thing after all this. Pointless to talk about it that much right now, but that will be my platform. But I would like to see the cronyism, this whole system, and I don't personally blame any of these people. It's a system that's been established in Pittsfield for a long time, and I think we're all ready for change and real transparency and openness. And there's huge opportunity, but at the same time, my fear also is whoever that next mayor that comes in, recessions are cyclical, and I fear a massive recession coming. Massive. And that's just a gut feeling I have. You're looking at the trends. You're looking at what's happened in the service industry, not being able to get employees. And I know a lot of people don't quite understand that. They think it's got something to do with unemployment benefits. It has nothing to do with that. That's such a small percentage of it. There's plenty of studies out there that show that what happened. The service industry took the biggest hit. Restaurants, delivery drivers, truck drivers, positions like that, because during the pandemic, when none of them could go to work, there were opportunities to work from home and change positions and make those changes. And people did. A lot of work from home opportunities. And, or people getting grants to go to school and being able to do that from home, going back to get degrees and things. So it really impacted the service industry in a tremendous way. And now as we're watching fuel start to go up again, you're seeing the cost of everything start to go up. And then, of course, we're about $30 trillion in debt as a country now, and inflation's going to be a real thing. You can't just keep printing and printing and printing money. It don't work that way. So we got to be very alert and pay attention to what's going on, because a lot of these extra resources coming in through the feds and all these things happening right now, it's smart to make sure we're protected, and it's smart to make sure we spend these funds the right way. Housing is a huge issue. Trying to find a place to live, trying to find a place to rent that's affordable. There's big issues going on. But as far as the city council elections, a city councilor basically has one job, and that is to represent your constituents in your ward, or if you're an at-large, throughout the city. But you're not there to push your own agenda by any stretch of the imagination. You're not there to be a rubber stamp for anybody either. You're there to do what your constituents want. And I'm assuming if all the councilors that are incumbents and they get reelected, then I guess all the constituents have been happy with what they've done. But anyway, pay attention, everyone. I'll be reaching out to everyone. It's going to be a very busy year. Before I wrap it up, I do want to briefly mention the mayor did her once a month interview with Slater and Marjo on 95.9 the other day. She talked about a few things. She talked about how she feels, one of her, and I think this is a quote from her, she said, many of our city councilors deserve to be reelected. And that was that deserve again. And nobody deserves anything in public service. You want to deserve a promotion? Go into the private sector and work your way up. Then you can say you deserve. Hey, work your way right up to CEO if you're good enough. Then you can deserve. Public service, there is no deserve. I don't like that language. That's not what those jobs are about. It's not about self-gain. I hate, yeah. But anyway, she talked about her podcast, a new podcast that the city started. And I smiled, but I support it. I think it's great. When I started my podcast 3 years ago, they spent 2 years, maybe longer, doing nothing but just tearing me to pieces. Fake news, fake journalists, sending some of their little weirdo people after me, bullying me and all that stuff. One of them, I'll call him Mr. Fake Book Deal Guy. That's a good name for him. Or Mr. Springside Park. We can call him that too. He was been just brutal on me. Brutal. Fake journalist, fake. And now the mayor starts a podcast. But you know what? I'm not going to be a bully and negative like them. I'm glad they started a podcast. Podcasts are legitimate. So I applaud that the mayor finally got with the times and someone talked to her. I mean, same stuff I was saying 2-3 years ago. They should start one. Instead, they just publicly bashed me and tried to rip me to pieces constantly. which is ripping all you to pieces that follow the page also. But rather than being negative like them, I support it, follow them, support all of it. More information out there, the better. So that is it for now. I'll be back with another video tomorrow. I'm going to try to double up this week to catch up for the time lost. Thank you to everyone on a personal note that sent me a bunch of messages. And hopefully no more rain, cooler temperatures. It's fall. But that's it for now. And I'll be back with a bunch of stuff starting either tomorrow or Monday.